Welcome everyone! In this video, we are going to be diving into my top 5 best teams for the Great League Remix. Now, the Great League Remix is running alongside the Open Great League to open up Season 13 of Pokemon Go Battle League. The Great League Remix, always fun and provides a very nice and refreshing alternative to those of us out there that may get a little tired of seeing the same few teams over and over again in the Open Great League. If you get tired of seeing hardcore meta nonstop, the Great League Remix is always nice to have as an option. So, with the new updates for Pokemon Go Battle League Season 13, the meta has shifted quite a bit from the last time we've had the Great League Remix available. And with that brings some new teams that we can give a try and have some fun with. So, without further ado, let's dive into team number 1. All right, my friends, here we go. Team number 1, a very, very powerful team that will get you a lot of success in the Great League Remix. Very solid team, very good for the climb early on in Season 13 of Go Battle League. And it leads with Pelipper on the lead. Newly updated and buffed Pelipper with Wing Attack, of course. Vigoroth on the safe swap. And Steelix in the back to close the game strong. Very powerful team. Pelipper protects the back 2 Pokemon from the counter users and to an extent the ground types. And the other 2 in the back can absolutely put in the work and are very strong in this meta. Here we go. Let's look at this scorecard here and look at that, my friends. You don't get much better than this. You get an A for coverage, B for bulk, an A for safety, and an A for consistency. Very, very good scorecard for team number 1. Let's have a look at the matchups here. Now, it says that Pelipper on the lead has a lot of very narrow losses, but I dug a little deeper, guys, and this is quite deceptive. Pelipper is a lot stronger on the lead than these matchups may reflect here. Of course, with Steelix, which is quite strong in this meta, and there's a very good chance that you'll see it quite a bit on the lead. It's not a great matchup for you on the lead. Of course, you can fight back with Weather Ball. That does hit it for super effective. But the thing with Steelix is it's quite bulky. It has a lot of bulk, even in the Great League format. So the way I would play that, you could chip and dip. That's a pretty solid play. Weather Ball does a little over a third of Steelix's health. So that is nice. And you will outpace them before they can hit you with a Psychic Fangs, although the Psychic Fangs does not hit particularly hard. But the thing now is a lot of trainers are getting a lot better as as seasons go on. Naturally, trainers will get a lot better. So with that said, it's not likely that they will throw immediately. They will likely overfarm by quite a bit. They will probably try to get close to back-to-back and then throw. So I think the safer, you could chip and dip. I think that's the safest play, but just know that your Vigoroth will likely get hit with a debuff. But that's how I would play Steelix. And, of course, Vigoroth with counter and access to Bulldoze can put in the work on an opposing Steelix, especially if its health is compromised. So that's how I would play that. Guzzlord, very similar to Steelix with the Dragon Tail, although I would not try and employ that chip and dip strategy because the Dragon Tails have stab and it can hit you for some big neutral damage with stab between Dragon Claw and Brutal Swing or Crunch. So I would just go right into Vigoroth immediately with a Guzzlord lead, whereas with Steelix, I would chip and dip. Aurorus, you could see quite a bit of. The update with Meteor Beam. It's proving to be quite the game changer for Aurorus, as I anticipated when I was deep diving into the new updates. So Aurorus, although Very much updated, can put in a lot of work. It takes a very long time to get to that meteor beam. They've got to bait you with a weather ball, which hits for neutral damage. All the while, you can still hit them with super effective weather balls. The weather ball damage will do quite a bit to Aurorus. That's not one that you'll want to stay in on, although not too bad for Pelipper on the lead. You've got two amazing answers to it in the bag, so much like with Steelix with an Aurorus lead, I would chip and dip into Vigoroth just to mix it up and see what they have in the back. You never know if you may need your Pelipper for something else that they may have in the back. And let's see, everything else pretty straightforward. Pelipper does very well. It's going to win CMP tie against a lot of things in this meta. And yeah, everything else pretty straightforward. Frostlass, those of you who may be unfamiliar with the matchup, I will highlight that one quickly. You can stay in there. You actually win that in the 2-shield pretty easily. You just thoroughly outpace Frostlass. So if you're unfamiliar or unsure about a Frostlass matchup, that's how I would play out the 2-shield with that and get it out of the way. So yeah, that's about it for team number 1. Amazing scorecard, amazing team, very fun team, and a very good team to get a strong start in GBL if you choose to play in the Great League Remix. And that is Pelipper on the lead, Vigoroth on the safe swap, and Steelix in the back to close the game strong. So with all that said, that is team number 1. Let's have a look at team number 2. All right, guys, here we go. Team number 2, another very powerful team for the Great League Remix. It's a triple normal team. Always fun to run a triple typing or double typing type of team, but often it's not. It's usually a fun team. It's rarely very I'm not gonna say very effective, but it's rarely as good as this one. Let's say that. And on this triple normal team for team number 2, we've got Knocked Owl on the safe swap, Knocked Owl on the lead, Obstagoon on the safe swap, and Diggersby running Quick Attack in the back to close the game strong. Let's have a look at the scorecard here. And have a look at that, guys. How often do you see a triple typings team with a scorecard like this? This team, quite strong for this meta. You get a B for coverage, an A for bulk, an A for safety, and an A for consistency. Not bad at all. Let's have a look at these matchups here. So, Knocked Owl, very strong, as we all may know by now. Even in the Great League Remix, it's going to be doing quite well, and that is because it is quite bulky, and with the new Wing Attack update, it can get to its moves even that much faster than last season. Pretty straightforward with this team here. The 2 Pokemon in the back are going to be protecting Knocked Owl from all of the Steelixes that we will undoubtedly see. So on a Steelix lead, you were not staying in there whatsoever. You're getting the heck out of there into your Obstagoon and playing on from there. Pelipper, you are going to want to take that thing out. Play out the 2-shield. You're going to do just fine in the 2-shield. Do everything in your power to get rid of any Pelipper that you encounter on the lead. If things go awry, Obstagoon can fight back, of course, against Pelipper, but that's the safest place. Stay in, take it out, play out the 2-shield if necessary. Aurorus on the lead, you're not staying in there at all. You're going to go into Obstagoon. Now, generally, I don't recommend going into your hardest counter, but you kind of want to force that swap to try and flip switch with Obstagoon. You want to force the swap because if you do lose switch, you can come in and get ahead on energy with Knocked Owl and still put in a little bit of work on Aurorus. That Shadow Ball hits pretty hard on Aurorus. And if things go awry, you've got Diggersby in the back that can one-shot that thing with Earthquake, no problem. So Aurorus, not too bad. You're switching immediately. Let's see here. Everything else pretty straightforward. All of these narrow losses, guys, keep in mind, this is the 1 shield scenario. The 2 shield is quite a bit different for Noctowl. It beats a lot of things in the 2 shield pretty easily. And Galvantula, that's the one I really wanted to hammer home. That's a tricky one. It core breaks Noctowl and Obstagoon quite hard. That's one, you could play that a number of ways. The problem with that matchup on the lead is you both get to your first charge attack at the same time, and that Galvantula will win CMP tie for sure, 100%. No question about that. The question is, though, are they gonna bait you with the lunge? Most trainers do bait with the lunge, but again, like I said, a lot of trainers are getting a lot better with their decision making and overall gameplay. So, yeah, it's tricky. I think the safest play with Galvantula is just soft lose lead and come in with Diggersby. By that time, you'll either have a very nice shield advantage or a very nice health advantage. Either one works to your favor. The only risk with soft losing lead is if they have a counter user in the back, which is quite likely because Galvantula will cover that counter user against the Flyers. So you could chip and dip into your Diggersby and look to play on from there, or you could soft lose lead. It really depends on what you're seeing a lot of and what you're reading in the back. So, yeah, that's how I would play Galvantula. There's no easy way to play that. That's just a hard counter lead. So, that's how I would play that. Everything else pretty straightforward. Noctowl wins a lot in the 2 shield on the lead. You got an amazing scorecard for this triple normal team for team number 2. And, yeah, with all that said, that is team number 2. Let's have a look at team number 3. All right, my friends, here we go. Team number 3, another very powerful team for you guys to run in the Great League Remix. It leads with Diggersby on the lead, Toxapex on the safe swap, and Galvantula in the back to close the game strong. Now, with a team like this, with 2 bulky Pokemon like Diggersby and Toxapex, the shielding priority 100% goes to Galvantula to sweep the endgame. Galvantula up with a shield advantage beats a lot of things, almost everything outside of Steelix. And Diggersby running quick attack on the lead. I wrestled with this one. Quick attack is nice because it gives you a broader coverage throughout the meta, but on the lead, where you have that ability to swap out and mix things up, if you're not comfortable running quick attack, you can definitely just run the conventional mud shot. It's just if you find yourself in those, nuanced situations, those end-game scenarios, it might be nice to have quick attack for the farmability and general neutral coverage. So just keep that in mind. You could go either way, really, if it is on the lead. And Toxapex, basically the 2 Pokemon in the back are here to protect Diggersby from the Flyers, most notably Pelipper. Pelipper is the hardest counter to Diggersby in this meta, so both Pokemon cover that. So let's have a look at the scorecard here. And look at that. Identical to the scorecard from team number 2. Amazing, guys. You really don't get much better than this. You get a B for coverage, an A for bulk, an A for safety, and an A for consistency. I was quite surprised to see that bulk score because Galvantula can bring down a bulk score like you wouldn't believe, but we pulled it out with this one. So let's have a look at these matchups here. So Diggersby on the lead, quite strong. It's here to protect the back 2 Pokemon from Steelix. So that's why I said you could definitely run the conventional mud shot. That definitely helps out with Steelix, but you don't necessarily need it. You still beat Steelix pretty comfortably running quick attack. And you will see it most often on the lead. You could definitely see it in the back, but that's why we've got Toxapex on the safe swap to draw out those Steelixes, guys. If there is a Steelix, you'll want to draw it out with Toxapex because it is a nightmare for Galvantula. That is the goal of this team. But if it's on the lead, you are golden. You take that thing out just as fast as you can. Everything else pretty straightforward. Pelipper leads. You're getting the heck out of there just as fast as you can. There's no question about that. The other flyers, if you're running quick attack, that's why it's nice, because it allows you to do some nice neutral damage with stab, and the energy generation is still quite nice. You actually do very well against Knocked Owl and the one shield with quick attack. So I'm slightly leaning toward running quick attack on it, even on the lead. And that's about it. It's pretty straightforward. Whiscash, a little bit tricky, but you can still do very well. That EQ does a lot of damage to Whiscash, and if you're clever with your baits and reading your opponent, getting off a bait and then hitting that EQ is quite nice. What else do we have here? I think everything else pretty straightforward. You're just hard swapping out on Pelipper. That's really the only one that you're hard swapping out of. Auroras, I think you can definitely just play it out a little bit. It depends on how comfortable you are playing Diggersby with Auroras. You can bait with that Fire Punch, still hits for neutral damage. I think in the Great League, EQ one-shots for sure. If not, it comes extremely close to one-shotting. Auroras, not quite as bulky as it is in the Ultra League. So that's how I would play this team. Pretty straightforward. Amazing scorecard for team number 3. And it leads with Diggersby on the lead, Toxapex on the safe swap, and Galvantula in the back to close the game strong. So with all that said, that's team number 3. Let's have a look at team number 4. All right, my friends, here we go. Team number 4. And it leads with Mandibuzz on the lead, Vigoroth on the safe swap, and Unova Stunfisk in the back. This is a very similar team to one that I featured in the last Great League remix. The only difference is there is a slight tweak. We swapped out Whiscash for Unova Stunfisk. And that is because of all of the newly updated flyers that we're going to be seeing a lot of. Unova Stunfisk just provides slightly better coverage, because with Whiscash, you're forced to bait with a double resisted Mud Bomb to try and get off that big blizzard, whereas Stunfisk has the option of running Thundershock. Of course, you can do that nice, super effective fast move pressure, and it's just a little bit more consistent. As far as Stunfisk, you could run Thundershock. It is recommended that you run Thundershock as your fast move, but if you're more comfortable going Mudshot, you could definitely go that route as well. Let's have a look at the scorecard here. And not bad at all for team number 4. Pretty solid scorecard. You get a B for coverage, an A for bulk, a B for safety, and an A for consistency. Very, very solid scorecard for team number 4. Let's have a look at these matchups here. So all 3 of these Pokemon have very narrow victories over Steelix in the 1 shield, but in the 2 shield, it can be a little bit different, but you're still going to be doing extremely well, even in the 2 shield. The beauty of running Mandibuzz, if you encounter a Steelix, is all of the conventional, the two conventional charge moves are both resisted. One being double resisted, that being Psychic Fangs. And Mandibuzz does have the bulk to hang in there, even with those Psychic Fang debuffs. It's not as bad, especially if you're running Snarl. There aren't too many pure fighters in this meta, and that really doesn't warrant running Air Slash. I think Snarl's definitely the way to go in this meta. So I wanted to give some very solid answers to Steelix, as it is quite strong in this meta, and a lot of people are going to be running it. So all 3 perform very well against Steelix. Auroras, A little bit tricky. You definitely tank a Weather Ball. Meteor Beam hits pretty hard, even on a bulky Pokemon like Mandibuzz. But if you encounter it on the lead, that's the 2 shield. Aurorus has to work really hard to try and land that massive Meteor Beam. So I would chip and dip on an Aurorus lead. If you're running Mudshot, it's really nice for a Pokemon like Aurorus, but I would actually safe swap into Stunfisk and look to play on from there. Vigoroth is sort of your hard counter because you're doing super effective damage with those counters, and you will undoubtedly force a swap there, but you kind of want to coax them to stay in. If they see that you have a Unova Stunfisk, they might be tempted to stay in a little bit to get off some super effective damage. And that's a trap, my friends. You kind of want to double team an Aurorus with Mandibuzz and Stunfisk. Everything else pretty straightforward with this team. Mandibuzz is going to be quite strong on the lead. Galvantula is a pretty solid core breaker for this team. It takes a team effort across the board. Of course, your best answer is Unova Stunfisk. But Mandibuzz can put in some work, quite spammy. It will outpace you. But if you want to stay in there, chip and dip a little bit, you can. There's a good chance that they'll try and bait you with that neutral lunge, but they may just go full bore for that discharge. It does not one-shot. You can tank that pretty well. But grabbing an early shield advantage or health advantage would be nice. I would not stay in there at all for the duration. I would tank some damage, try and grab a shield or health advantage, and then look to make a play into Vigoroth. That's how I would play Galvantula. Any flying lead, if you encounter Galvantula, it's gonna be rough, guys. You just kind of have to maneuver, employ some tactical maneuvering, as I refer to it, and just try your very best on Galvantula leads. But that's how I personally would play it and how I would recommend playing it. Frostlass on the lead. Of course, you can fight back with super effective foul plays. Frostlass does tank a foul play for Mandibuzz pretty comfortably, but it's not fun for the Frostlass. I would try and get off that chip damage. You could try and play that out because it's bad news for Stunfisk as well. The reason why is because you're taking super effective damage from the ice type damage, and you don't hit particularly hard as Stunfisk. Stunfisk is really on this team to cover the steel types. So you could play that out with Frostlass. Try and take it out if you can with Mandibuzz. In the 2-shield scenario, it's unlikely that they will want to give up both of their shields that early, but you kind of do want to get that out of the way. So that is team number 4. Pretty solid scorecard as we saw, and yeah, pretty solid team overall. So with all that said, that is team number 4. Let's have a look at team number 5. All right, last but certainly not least, team number 5. Another solid team for the Great League Remix. And it leads with Jumpluff on the lead, Whiscash on the safe swap, and Aurorus in the back to close the game strong. Now, those of you that have an Aurorus, it's quite interesting. It's a very interesting Pokemon for this meta because of it getting Meteor Beam. That is a game changer for this Pokemon. Makes it a lot more meta relevant, particularly for the specialty cups. And you could actually flip-flop the leads. You could lead Aurorus and throw Jumpluff in the back. This is more of a balanced team, so it really depends on how comfortable you are and what you're seeing a lot of. But for now, we are leading with Jumpluff. Going to protect Aurorus from fighters, which I am anticipating we will see quite a bit of. Now that day 1 is out of the way, the meta has settled a little bit. We could see a lot more fighters or counter users, I should say, in the meta to fight back against all of the Steelixes that we are now seeing a lot of. So let's have a look at the scorecard here. And not bad at all for team number 5. Very solid scorecard. You basically get straight B's across the board, and you get an A for bulk. That is amazing. Let's have a look at these matchups here. So Jumpluff, very interesting on the lead, can really hold its own as it is quite bulky. Even if you decide to run a shadow variation, it still maintains quite a bit of its bulk and hits quite a bit harder. But it is nice having that bulk in the Great League format and the non-shadow, I will say. So Jumpluff, of course, on the lead, going to be doing very well. This is in anticipation for the Steelix leads. Actually, you guys, you could really run this team in any order, really. You could bump Whiscash up into the lead if you're seeing a lot of Steelix leads. That seems to be one of the more common leads that we see. But Jumpluff, if you lead with it, can hold its own. You will definitely force a shield with the neutral energy balls with stab. Steelix will tank one, but they're going to think long and hard about tanking two, guys. All the while, Jumpluff has the bulk to hang in there with the debuffs from the Poison Fangs. But if you do grab that shield, and it's very likely that you will on that second energy ball, I would then bail into Whiscash and force the swap. That'll clear your debuffs and allow you to reset and play on from there. That's how I would play Steelix on the lead. Pelipper, again, much like Steelix, tanks an energy ball pretty comfortably, but has to think long and hard about tanking a second one. And they really have to bait to set up that big hurricane. So Jumpluff actually does pretty well despite seeing the solid O or the solid dot. That's the one shield, guys. Pelipper can easily beat Jumpluff in the one shield, but the two shield, things are a lot different. And that is where you would encounter it on the lead and the two shield. Aurorus, you have two solid answers to it in the back. I would not stay in on any ice type lead with the exception of Abomasnow, which we will get to. But an Aurorus lead, you could hang in there and dance around with an Aurorus a little bit. It does take super effective damage at the end of the day, and you are quite bulky. You definitely tank a double super effective Weather Ball pretty comfortably. But I think it might be worth trying to get that energy ball off, get some big damage, big super effective damage off, or grab an early shield advantage. And then you'd actually want to go into your own Aurorus to play out the mirror matchup. Not likely that they would stay in, though. So that's how I would play Aurorus. And I did want to go over Abomasnow. I don't think you'll see too much of it, but you could see it. You never know. That's the one major core breaker for this team, as Aurorus is your best answer to an Abomasnow on the lead. Much like an Aurorus on the lead, I think it's worth trying to get off that big acrobatics. You'll definitely grab an early shield advantage. That's the goal with this team. Preserve a shield advantage for Aurorus to sweep. So that's how I would play Abomasnow. You're going to safe swap into Aurorus after grabbing the shield and playing on from there. So that's it. Not too much really to hammer home with this team. Everything else pretty straightforward. Pretty solid scorecard overall for team number 5, guys. And that about wraps it up for my top 5 best teams for the Great League Remix. Should be a lot of fun. Great League Remix, always a fun time. And like I said, provides a very nice and refreshing alternative to the Open Great League. So with all that said, guys, I had a blast. I hope you all enjoyed. As always, I thank you for watching and keep up the grind. Thank you, guys.